Sup people, welcome back to another episode of After Credits in the daytime. Brittany and I went to go see Moana on Thanksgiving, but we couldn't do a video then because of work. We're going to talk a little bit about Moana, the new Disney princess film starring Auli'i Cravalho as the daughter of a Polynesian chief. She's tasked by the ocean to retrieve a magical stone that will bring life back to her cursed islands with the help of the demigod Maui, played by Dwanye Johnson. Critics have loved this, man. It seems like Disney's done it again. Everyone's talking about how progressive and how new this film is. It's good. I don't think it's the greatness that everyone's calling it, but I think the reason that everybody calls this great is because of Moana's placement in the sort of Disney princess brand. It's very reminiscent of something like How to Train Your Dragon or Brave. Before we go on, spoiler alert, everything is fair game here, as is the rule on our channel. So if you haven't seen this movie yet and just want to know a quick summary and scores out of 6 stars, just click the time code right there and I'll take you to it. Otherwise, let's do this shit. But before I talk about the movie, I wanted to talk about the idea of the Disney princess and how this is evolving over time. A brand essentially needs to have a core, something that is recognizable throughout all incarnations of the brand, but the brand also needs to evolve to fit with the times and to be relevant. So what is the core of a Disney princess? I've come up with it as a Disney princess is a young, morally upstanding woman with power, whether it be earned or given to her at birth. And the evolution of that I've marked in 3 stages, whether it be the 50s with Cinderella, Snow White, and Sleeping Beauty, the Renaissance, the 90s with Belle, Jasmine, and Ariel, and the 3D, which is Tiana, Rapunzel, Anna and Elsa, and our Moana. And in the 50s, you see that these are morally upstanding women. They are good. They are following those 50s traditional values, these traditional gender roles of cooking, cleaning, etc. And then you go to the Renaissance, where the gender roles are still there, but you're starting to question it. These are marked by people looking for something more, something greater to explore than the world they're given. All these stories are about women that want to find something more, but they end up finding relationships. Eric, Aladdin, the Beast. But then you go into the 3D, which the 3D era, modern era, is when we start looking at different ways to tell these stories. And Tiana wants to be an entrepreneur as a black female in the 20s. First 2D animated movie in, it was like 15 years when that movie came out, and bam, just right out the gate with something strong. Then you've got Rapunzel, and Rapunzel very much resembles somebody like Ariel or Jasmine in that she just wants to explore the world. The movie is not reliant on will Flynn and Rapunzel get together. It's mostly will Rapunzel find her family. Anna is definitely familial love, but Elsa is self-love. It is, in essence, a story about depression and learning to overcome that. So we look at Moana, and Moana, by going to basics, ends up doing something new with the brand. This is Disney Princess's straightforward adventure story. She is a young, morally upstanding woman with the power that comes from being a chief's daughter, but she's a person who's trying to balance that pragmatism of learning how to be a chief with the idealism of, I want to go explore, I want to be part of the ocean. And I thought that those elements were balanced really well, and this movie trims a lot of the fat and just says this is an adventure story that happens to have a girl in the main role. Cool. I said it trims a lot of the fat. It doesn't necessarily trim all of it. Most of the problems I have with this movie reside from the chosen one narrative. The main problem that most people have with chosen one narratives are that it doesn't matter who the chosen one is, the movie can move forward without it. The ocean is a conscious being, and it can move Moana. We see that it'll pick up Moana and kind of move her through the ocean, kind of like a motor-powered dolphin of sorts. So why couldn't the ocean just pick up the stone and move it back to where Te Fiti was, as opposed to having to hire this 14-year-old inexperienced girl and a fallen demigod to do it? It's not just that the ocean can solve everything. Moana will ask the ocean for help. She'll be traveling and come across this massive storm, and she'll beg the ocean for help. Throws her off course, it shipwrecks her. Just happens to be on Maui's island. I'd understand it if it were more established in the story what the ocean is. Is the ocean a guidance? Can the ocean not interfere, but it can kind of nudge you in the right direction? It's used more as a plot convenience rather than a fully fledged character. There are other things inherent to Disney movies that I think this doesn't follow, whereas it's a Disney movie, so somebody's gotta die. I'll give the movie credit for keeping the parents alive, but the grandma dies. Right before the grandma dies, she gives Moana this story and spiel about this cave where her ancestors hid these massive fishing boats. And in that cave, Moana finds out that her ancestors, unlike her dad and everybody else on the island currently, were voyagers. And so right after this happens, Moana runs to the village and tells everybody, hey, this is how we fix everything. They kick her out and tell her she's stupid. And then suddenly the grandma is in a tent just like on her deathbed. It feels like it was done to just kickstart the story, like, oh, grandma's dead, that's why now I have to ignore everything my dad says and go do this. The dad throughout the entirety of this has a whole you can't go beyond the reef because reasons, and the dad never gives her the reason. It's the mom that gives her a reason. So it feels like exposition instead of a chance for character development, instead of a chance for the bond between her dad and Moana to really sort of see each other's point of view, like in How to Train Your Dragon. There's also kind of an over-explanation of this, because the personal reason that the dad gives for not going beyond the reef is that he did it when he was a kid, and he and his best friend were sailing, they got into an accident, and the best friend drowned. The dad couldn't save him. So now he has this trauma that if anybody goes beyond the reef, there's no way that the dad can help them if anything goes wrong. But the grandma also gives this historical reason that honestly seems like a better reason to tell Moana, which is that after Maui stole the stone, there are these monsters that start popping up and start killing all the people on boats, and so that's why the ancestors hid away. So it seems less like a personal preference for the dad to be afraid of the ocean, rather than a practical, there are monsters out there. None of these explanations are bad. I just wish the movie would have stuck to either or. As soon as we meet Maui, this film goes up a million notches. And that's because Dwanye Johnson is charismatic as hell. He fits this character to a T, mischievous with a heart of gold. He's singing his introductory song, You're Welcome, and talking about all the deeds that he did that are tattooed all over his body. You start to come kind of like involved, and it's a really catchy song, and you find yourself sort of drawn in by him, but you realize that you, just like Moana, are being tricked, and so he's deciding to lock you inside of a cave and steal your boat so he can get off the damn island. That's hilarious, and I love that Dwanye Johnson is such a good performer that he can pull all that off. The journey is really fun, and the journey is where you see most of the Polynesian-inspired architecture and design. There's this great scene where they're being hunted by these coconut pirate people called the Kakamori, and this was confirmed by the directors in a Den of Geek interview, but it's essentially like the most adorable version of the Warboys from Fury Road you've ever seen. This giant island-looking ship that splits off into an armada of 3, and they've got these little fish hooks that they use to board boats, and they normally have these cute little coconut masks, but then they draw the angry eyebrows and pull out these spears and swords, and you're like, oh my god, okay. And this scene is really fun, just flying all around. You could see all these angles. You could see Moana think on her feet and really become sort of an action hero. And then there's this scene where they go to this giant mountain island, where at the top of it is the entrance to the realm of monsters. Easily the best thing in this movie. It's kind of like an LSD'd Little Mermaid. They're looking for Maui's fish hooks so that he can transform and get past the lava monster. And they come across this crab, this hoarder crab that loves anything valuable and shiny, played by Jermaine Clement from Flight of the Conchords. Just like in every really good Disney movie, the villain song is the best song that they've got. And so he starts singing this glam rock David Bowie song about shininess, and you think he's a really goofy villain too, but you start seeing with the way he's interacting with Maui that basically one good swing of the crab hook, he's dead. So it's really fun having to like trick this guy so Maui can get the upper advantage. Halfway through the song, the lights will turn out and it'll go neon. It looks like something out of, like, again, Princess and the Frog meets the Pink Elephants on Parade. It's insane. The song's called Shiny, and you will find yourself humming it for days. Moana has this sidekick. If you watch the trailer, you think it's the pig, but no, it's the chicken. Bar none, the most useless thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It's just close enough to being offensive. It's confusing, but I will admit it did make me chuckle a couple of times. It's odd with this movie, too. I didn't laugh as much as I think the movie wanted me to. There is this really bad Twitter joke that they throw in there that's completely random. And something that I like about this Polynesian thing, whenever they start singing the Voyager song, what is it? We Know the Way. I think the first verse and the chorus are sung in the original Polynesian language, and then the rest of it's in English, which is something that we haven't. It's kind of an expansion of, what is that movie? Circle of Life and Lion King. It feels worked in better. Maui also has this scene, I think it is during You're Welcome, where it's a combination of 2D and 3D animation. To me, it feels more like when a live-action movie puts animation in the background. It's a weird effect. It's not like Roger Rabbit, more like Song of the South. That's a really bad comparison to it. But for a split second, you start looking at Moana and Maui, these 3D animations, as the live-action people that the 2D animation is playing with. You also see a lot of that with Maui's tattoo, which is his own little sidekick, and it's really fun. You know, when he gets mad at it, he'll flick his tit and it'll fly towards his back. All without a hint of dialogue from the tattoo. You get to see him sort of give this. I read Christy Lemire's review that called it sort of a Greek chorus. And so the best part of this is the journey. And then when we get to the end, it goes back to sort of the cliches. There's an initial fight that Maui has with Moana after they try to go take out the lava monster the first time, where Maui's fish hook, this magic fish hook that, you know, he can transform to like a shark, a giant hawk, a bug or something. The fish hook gets broken, and he gets mad because he thinks that all his power comes from that, and he ditches Moana because he's mad at her. And then later, Moana cries. She has a reconnecting with Grandma Stingray. Forgot to mention this. The grandma has a tattoo of a stingray on her back, which she believes she'll be reincarnated as. Of course she is. And then the grandma gives her sort of an inspiring speech about how to move forward and be a voyager and blah blah blah. Moana goes to fight the lava monster herself, and randomly Maui shows up because it's the climax, and Maui is Han Solo. It felt like there was an opportunity, you know, you could have had a cute scene with him talking to the tattoo. That happens often throughout the film, that he'll have an idea, and sort of like the angel on his boob, the tattoo will start being like, you should help Moana. The ending's a little anticlimactic. Moana has the stone. She's going to find where Te Fiti was. And Maui tells her, look for the spiral. And Te Fiti's gone. And you're like, oh my god, where is she? You turn around and you find out that the lava monster has a spiral in its chest. If darkness was a curse and took over, turns out the lava monster is just the dark version of Te Fiti. And really, when Maui was trying to fight this thing, it was the Te Fiti trying to get her heart back. With all the times that Maui has fought this thing, you'd think that Spiral plus Spiral would click. The identity bait and switch thing didn't really work out as well here, because I never really found this to be a movie about identity, but more a coming of age. And of course, identity is a part of that, but I don't necessarily think it's that this isn't who I really am. Now I found out who I really am. No, you just found a way to put who you are into this world and make it make sense and make it evolve and make it work for the better. So if you scrolled on the time code, welcome to Final Thoughts, where I'm not only going to give my final thoughts on the film, but Brittany's final thoughts, because she couldn't be here today. My quick thoughts on it: it's a good hero's journey, and I like where this is placed in the Disney Princess universe, brand, etc. A lot of people love this because it doesn't need to rely on a love interest or the typical pitfalls of the female-centered narrative, and I like it for that too. I don't think it's the best told hero's journey. I do think How to Train Your Dragon or something like the first part of Brave is done better, but for what it is, I dug it. And the more I thought about this movie, the more I focused on the things I liked rather than focused on things I didn't like. Dwanye Johnson is awesome. The grandma is awesome. If you're stuck in the Thanksgiving hellhole that is your extended family, take them out to go see this movie. 4 out of 6. Good flick. Brittany. Same thing that I said, except she really loves the animation. Brittany really liked that Moana was a proud, determined little girl. Little girl as an emphasis, to where sometimes in Disney princess movies we sort of see them as fully formed adults when really they're meant to be like 14, 16. The closest you kind of get is the whiny, bratty Ariel. Brit's right, I really do like that they made Moana act and feel like a real teenager. One who is sort of bratty and hormonal, but she gets it. She gives that a 5 out of 6. So, HK verdict, 4.5 out of 6. Solid score, definitely check this one out. If you like this video, this random, rambly, nonsense, grapefruit-filled video, please click the like button down below. Please also click the subscribe button to be the first to find out when new content comes out. We've got Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. We've got... Oh, I almost choked on citrus. We've got links to Liam's blog, liammgaughan.wordpress.com. We didn't get a chance to check out Allied, but Liam did, and so he has a review of Allied down there right now. Our friend Noah at Geekasaur98 on Instagram, he's in the middle of his 10 movies I'm thankful for series, and I think he's on number 4 right now. It's a great list, just a quick sum up of great movies that you all should check out, so definitely give his account a look, see below. December is going to be weird because we've got a lot of award winners, but I'm also super busy with a new job. Anything that comes out, we're going to try and give it a shot. So we're going to play next week by ear. But until then, check out Moana. Y'all have a good Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for the comments, the views, the subscriptions, and y'all have a good day. Take care.